My name is Jacqueline. I currently live in British Columbia. I'm from Kitchener-Waterloo originally. I'm 35. I have many hats, actually, like more crowns lately. I'm a yoga instructor. I am a pageant queen, which is one of my most recent endeavors. I also work for the British Columbia Epilepsy Society as a community. This one's like a tongue twister. Community partners coordinator, where I get to work with multiple businesses to help raise funds. I'm also like a volunteer out in the community with many, many roles. Just between like all these things that I do, I'm always like bouncing around, keeping super busy. But that's kind of like the gist of, all those like boxes that I'd like to tick off. But that's kind of like who I am and like what I do. But like who I am like personified, I like to think I'm a person who's like very just and like who's full of light and I'm just like an advocate at heart for especially like epilepsy. So that's who I am. Yeah.
Nice, good intro.
Thank
Very
you.
very cool answer. So you said you're from Kitchener-Waterloo. I'm actually from Burlington, so just
You're
down the
not too
road.
far from me. Yeah.
Not too far, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're in BC now. So what made you like? If are you actually living in BC?
I am. Yeah.
What made you move out to BC?
Well, I find that BC, there's a lot more opportunities and there's well, when I say opportunities, there's a lot more resources medically, I want to say. Um, Ontario, don't get me wrong, Ontario has a fantastic system, but then BC out here, we have a lot that I've been able personally for my needs have been able to connect with. We have some fantastic neurologists that I was just able to connect with over here for my type of epilepsy, so it really helped. I wanted to come out here for school. I wanted to come out here for just to find myself as well. So just a whole kind of whack of reasons. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and BC is much more beautiful than it is here in Ontario, I can
Yes,
imagine.
we have
Yeah,
the mountains over here. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's very just gray. Feels very gray and concrete here in the GTA. So very cool that you got to move to BC. Yeah. So we can just get into the first question here
Sure.
of the standard questions, and you can say as much about this as you want, or it's up to you totally how you answer these questions, or if you don't want to answer any of them, it's totally up to you. Okay. So yeah, first question here. Tell us about your diagnosis.
Okay, so I was actually diagnosed at 3 months of age with tonic-clonic seizures. And then later on, I was diagnosed with absence and what was back then known as petit mal seizures. I am almost 35 and I'm still living with the same diagnosis. I am fortunate to only have a tonic-clonic seizure maybe once every year, 2 years. So it doesn't impact my life too much that way. But in terms of the other two, I will have those pretty frequently. We know that those seizures kind of go unnoticed. Like when people see me staring out, they're like, oh, she's probably tired. She's like spacing out, right? It's just whatever, whatever. When I was younger, I used to have tonic-clonic seizures all the time, especially when I was a teenager growing up, right? Like they were so frequent. But that is essentially, yeah, my diagnosis. I will say that I've had well, it has been a really long journey. I have had some really frustrating moments, very negative moments. But then I think all these kind of frustrating moments, I have kind of harbored and I've loved, I've taken them and I've showered them with love to drive them into this form of advocacy. Because as I mentioned before too, I think as I mentioned before, I'm a yoga instructor. In yoga, you can either we kind of have this philosophy, or it's one of like the 900,000 philosophies in yoga. You can like fall into the darkness and you can kind of surrender within yourself, but then that's no good for the community around you, right? I don't really choose to surrender to the darkness. So I take these experiences, I kind of embrace them, I love them, Now, that being said, it's okay to surrender to some of these experiences. Absolutely, because you can't dismiss sadness. It's one of the emotions, 100%. I'm like, okay, seizures, 100%. I'm going to take this and I'm going to advocate for the community, right? And so all this lived experience just becomes like fuel to talk about and give a voice to people who are also going through similar things. So, I've been advocating for epilepsy for a number of years, like 10, 12, oh, definitely longer than that, 14, 17. It's probably way longer than that. I'm just like, I don't want to age myself. So I think looking back, I've had really two bad seizures that probably like knocked me on my feet for this, but I had a really bad seizure where I was in the washroom and it was like the dead of night, and I got up and I went flying through a glass shower, and I still have the scar on my nose, and the door was locked in the washroom, and the only thing I can remember actually from that is the sound of the axe from the firefighters like going through. I do remember my mom saying the police were there, the firefighters were there, the whole crew had to rip me out of the house. And so I think all that kind of frustration and all that shared like lived experience between people with epilepsy and myself, I get it. I do. And so it just makes me want to, like, all those emotions just bottles up. And I'm like, I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards. I want to be able to give you a voice. I want to advocate. I want to just like that's what's happening right now. That's what's always kind of happened. So don't get me wrong, I did get moments where I'm like, I just want to be on my bed and I don't want to do anything. So I know what that's like as well. But that's basically my journey with epilepsy, is having years and years and years of like not wanting to do anything, but now there's years and years and years of moving forward. And that's pretty much what Cassidy Megan does as well, is she's the same kind of wavelength. We kind of see it in the same version, where it's like you can be one way, but instead we choose to do the other. So yeah. So it was a little bit difficult because it was the 90s and not a lot of people understood what epilepsy was. And they still don't. I shouldn't say because it was in the 90s, but I would say, like, for instance, I would go up to someone and I still didn't understand what epilepsy was. I just knew I was special. So I was like, my mom was like, "You're special." I'm like, "I'm special." And then I tell people I'm special. And then these kids would be like, "You're special?" I'm special. My mom tells me I'm special, right? But like I would tell the teachers, I still remember this one incident where I went up to my grade 1 teacher and I was like, "I have seizures," and I dropped dead, and this teacher's staring at me like, "Oh my God," like, you did. And she like panicked so hard because I made it was like one of those incidents where a kid goes to the teacher in a movie and this kid over exaggerates everything and the teacher's like panicking. That was like literally, that was me. I was like, I dropped dead and I foam at the mouth, and I was like, and this teacher's like looking at me like, "Oh my God, we like need to call your mom like ASAP because I don't know what to do." I was like, "I'm allergic to everything." And this teacher's like freaking out. My mom's like, "No, oh my gosh, she's epilepsy, like nothing's gonna happen. Like she's gonna be okay. Like it rarely happens. Like she just stares out a few times. Like she's just trying to make herself like seem like, oh yeah, like over the top. Like I can be a drama queen sometimes, but yeah, that's what I did to my poor teachers. But in terms of the kids, I did gain a lot of weight from my one anticonvulsant because old age anticonvulsants were terrible. So they had some really bad side effects, including heavy weight gain because of satiety issues. So they basically told the brain, okay, we're going to subdue seizures, but in turn, you're just going to eat and you're going to eat and eat and eat, but you're not going to know when to cut yourself off. So I would have like these anticonvulsants and reduce seizures, but at the same time, I could eat like a football field's worth of food. And by the time I was like, I don't know, like 12 years old, I weighed like twice what a toddler should, or like what a, preteen should. And the thing is with kids is like they see something and they don't want to, some of them don't want to understand it. They just want to see, and then they just point and then, laugh, right? Because some of them are really mean. And so if I said I had epilepsy and this was due to epilepsy, they were like, no, it's just because you're fat because you choose to eat. I want to say most of this was actually because of parents, because I truly believe that kids, a lot of it is environmental. Because I still remember this incident in kindergarten where a kid came up to me and he was like, "You're fat." And then I look back at that and I was like, well, where did the kid learn the word fat, right? Because it clearly wasn't in the school. It had to be learned at home. And that is like purely, where I purely believe that things are learned in environment, because if everything is nice in kindergarten, it's beautiful and structured, where did that 4-year-old learn the word fat, right? It had to be at home. So yeah, that is my definite experience with like younger age stuff. Yeah, so it's the biggest one is like the tonic-clonic seizure, right? You say you have epilepsy and then people are like, oh, does that mean you're gonna like drop down like any time? And I was like, no, it's okay. Or the one with the flashing lights. I find the flashing light thing to be the most common stigma of all time. Like, I think I went into, it was a fitness class. It was like a spin class, and they have flashing lights in the spin class. And my friend's like, oh, should we get them to like cover up, or like, tell them to turn the flashing lights off? I'm like, I go to clubs, okay? Like, if this was an issue, I would not be here. And then I had to educate her on like the percentage of people that, are photosensitive, and that, even if I knew this was an issue, I would not be showing up. And like most of the time people are like, super receptive to learning about the facts. Like obviously if they're your friends, they're going to want to learn. If I do have an issue, I'm not going to show up. B, I'm going to make accommodations for myself. I'm going to call the club or the spin cycle studio or something like that ahead of time and just make sure like everything's cool. Usually venues and all that are really like, open to discussing stuff. Like people are really awesome nowadays. I don't think I've actually run into, especially fitness studios, a fitness studio that isn't willing to accommodate, because the world is changing that way. We just have to be, more open. But yeah, those are the two biggest ones. I'll just be very honest. If I did not have my medication, I would not be able to move and function. I've tried to kind of wean myself off my medication for like, testing's sake. Let's see, where I lie with it. Oh no, my body is like 100% dependent on it. I take topiramate, Lamictal, and Ativan, which has, that's like the brand name. I forget the actual like name of Ativan. It is 100% relying on it. If I miss a dose, any of those medications, I will just be like staring straight out, or like you'll get the weirdest responses from me. Like let's say I forget my topiramate, my body feels like, and I just have one or the other, I feel very like heavy. It's like my feet drag or something like that. I did have like a day where I missed both my doses because I take it twice a day. And I felt like I was almost going to fall forward into a brick wall. When people say like, they're dependent on their medication, or, they're just not, they're having like an off day from not having something, or like their body is experiencing a weird sensation from like, changing medications, something like that. I'm like, yeah, I 100% feel that, because it's a thing. It's 100% a thing. Honestly, we're still kind of playing with it, but it took over 30 years. It took a solid 30 years because, well, I was going to expand on the first answer and say it's really, really fascinating, because I find that most of the time people don't look at it like body chemistry. They just they see one person in our society and they're like, that's the perfect person. The perfect person doesn't, need medication. They don't need this and whatnot. And it's like, that's not the truth of it all, because we have these little tiny things to be able to function, right? Like I'm starting to sound like my boss now, but but it truly is. It's so fascinating, like the whole pharmaceutical side to it, like to be able to need like this and that and the other thing, and like all these like little different medications to be able to, just function, or just like function in a super way, like whether it's doing sports or like, it's just so fascinating. But yeah, it did take a solid 30 years to be able to be in a high functioning state like this, it was such a long process. And now I can multitask properly. I can, do this pageant thing. I can do yoga. I can do my job properly. But some moments are still like I hit a brick wall, right? But I think that goes for everyone, is like we kind of hit a burnout state. Sometimes if we're not watching ourselves, then I have to watch it, because in 10 years from now, my medication might be ineffective. And my neurologist has to watch for that. He's like, okay, so you've been on topiramate for like 10 years. Now it's all of a sudden just going to be like, no, it's not going to work. So then we need to transition it again, which often happens with anticonvulsants, is like all of a sudden, or any medication, right? Your body just doesn't like it anymore and it doesn't work. And so you have to replace it. So with something else, because the body can reject anything at any time, realistically. So it's like I said, it's really fascinating. It's just neurochemicals and pharmaceuticals, and it's incredibly important because, well, for a number of reasons. Everyone is susceptible to having a seizure. I shouldn't say if I know everyone for sure, because we don't like to say for sure in science, right? But we know a lot of people in this world are susceptible for having seizures. And if such a large percentage of the world are susceptible to having seizures, then we need to know why. And if we need to know why, then obviously we need to have the funding to back up finding out why, right? If the human brain is so precious, if it's so, fragile, then we need to study it, right? Whether it's epilepsy, seizures, anything in that range, right? It's just epilepsy, seizures, they're changing so rapidly that it wasn't too long ago that we discovered that there was over 40 different types of seizures, right? And that was just in the past, few decades. It's just like we went from 2 or 3 to 40. It's so precious. The brain is so precious and fragile, and being able to, I feel like I'm just saying that again, but really knowing all this information could technically save someone's life, because the more we are able to know about seizures and epilepsy, the more we're able to respond properly by developing workshops, by developing programs, by developing all this stuff that educates the public properly, right? And when people know what to do, they know what to look for, and they know preventative measures, right? We kind of unfortunately live in this world where it's like, oh, I know one type of seizure. I know how to accommodate another type of seizure, maybe 2, and then that's it. I don't think I've really been in a space where, I felt 100% comfortable, to be honest. Like I look around, I'm like, hey, like, does anyone really, do 100% of you know how to accommodate a seizure, even knowing that maybe like 80% of you know, like, that you can have a seizure? Like it's crazy. So, I'll continue to fight for epilepsy. I'll continue to fight to, get more funding for research. And it's, there's so much that I could say about this because it is incredibly important for people to be educated on the subject. So I originally entered pageants. It was, the funny thing is that it was originally a joke by my friends. So we were sitting and going out for lunch, and then I was like, hey, wouldn't it be fun to go in a beauty pageant? And my friend's like, why don't you, I dare you to basically try, going in Miss Canada. And I was like, well, it's a lot of money. It's really like time consuming. She's like, well, if you do it, like I'll support you 100%. And basically we went back and forth, right? And then I was like, oh, what the heck? I'll do it. I'll submit my application. I got accepted. And then I was like, well, I guess I got to do this now. I can't really, it's a no bail situation. And then I ended up coming in top 7 for Miss Canada. And now this month, I'm in Miss Confidence Canada. I'm a finalist. The crowning is at the end of the month. And then the year after that, for 2026, I'm a delegate for Miss Personality Pageants Canada and Miss Personality Pageants Canada Nationals. So I basically got like 3 more pageants already on the way. Honestly, it's been a lot of fun, and I'm so excited that a lot of people who reached out to me, that they find hope in it, because I also use it as a platform to bring hope to people with disabilities, because I advocate for both mental health and epilepsy using my platform, which right away was something that I knew that I wanted to use it for, because when you're a pageant queen, or even like a finalist or something, you get a lot of like media attention, you get like a lot of invitations, you get a lot of, which I didn't realize like how constant it was. So for instance, like I've been on the front cover of Times now. I'm literally right after that, this Friday, I'm going to open up a restaurant for a grand opening. I'm like, okay, let's go. I'm being told I have to, so let's do this. And so like it's just a really great opportunity to be able to, speak about epilepsy here, there, and different places, and just bring awareness to different, communities out there. So I'll probably have like another fundraiser at some point and get out there. But yeah, that's my journey. So it's been a lot of fun, honestly.